Hello, friends. Welcome once again. My name is Michael Tobechukwu, and I'm here with another tutorial video on coding, right? It promises to be an exciting time in the next few minutes. But before we go into the tutorial proper, I'm sure you've seen one of these things called the traffic lights before when you're going on the road and you see them up there with three colors. What are the colors? Can you call out the colors? Excellent. That's red, yellow, and green. And you know what happens when each light is on? When it's red, what happens? Tell me. You stop, correct? And when it's yellow, you get ready to do what? To go. And that happens when what? When the light turns green. I'm sure you've been wondering, how does this work? Is there someone somewhere who is controlling the lights and making sure it goes from red to yellow to green and back again to red and to yellow to green? Is there someone somewhere who is controlling all of that? I'm sure you've wondered. Well, I'm here to give you an answer today. It's all simply programming, okay? And we'll be creating something like that in today's project, as you can see on my screen. So today we're just creating a traffic light simulator project. And I've made it fun. I've added a bus here and then a passerby right here. So I'm just going to run the project from the beginning, the finished project that is, and so you see what is supposed to happen in this project. So just watch. It's actually quite cool, although it's a very short animation project, but it's actually quite cool. Are you ready to see it? Now pay attention. So listen. So did you observe what happened? Right? The light went from yellow to from red rather to yellow and then to green. And once it turned green, the bus moved and the person walked. Okay, that's exactly what happened. So you can replay it, this video, to watch it all over again if you didn't catch it the first time. Without further ado, let us begin our project. What's the first thing you do? Launch Scratch and create a new project. Are you ready? So this is what you see when you launch Scratch and you have a new project in front of you. So the first thing we do is to delete the default cat sprite because we do not need it in our work, right? Yeah. Now the next thing we do is to add our backdrop. You can choose any backdrop that is suitable for the project, okay? Something that's like a road or a city, right? But for me, I'm just going to use urban because I really like it, right? Because of course a car can pass through here and all. All right, so that's the first thing I do. I add my backdrop. Now, if you observe in the project, in the finished work, I had my traffic light somewhere here. And for the traffic light, it has four different parts of it. The traffic light stand, the three lights, the red, yellow, and green light. So that's four different parts that make up that traffic light. The stand itself and the red light, the yellow light, and the green light. So what do we do? Now come to this backdrop that you've added here. See where I have stage. I clicked on stage and then I come to backdrop. So I'm going to add the backdrop, the traffic light stand rather. I'll add it here to my background, to my backdrop. So if you have yours as convert to vector, click on that so that it will be vectorized. Vectorized means it's easier for you to edit it, okay? I don't need this blank backdrop, so I'll delete it. And then now all I have to do is draw my traffic light stand. So I'll click on the rectangle, the square right here. This is the rectangle tool, but of course you can see that's kind of the square. So the rectangle tool, then I'll just draw the box here. I'll just draw this here. This is going to be my traffic light stand. If you want to move, if you want to be able to move it around, don't forget you have to just click your select tool. Can allow you to resize or move it around easily. Do not forget you must click the select tool to do that. Now the next thing I need to do is to draw the stand round right here to complete the stand. So come back to my rectangle tool and then I'll just draw this right here. Right, perfect. I have my traffic light stand in the backdrop. Now, the reason I chose to do it in the backdrop is because if I draw it as a sprite, it will be moving about if I click on it, but I don't want that, okay? Now the next thing is for me to add my three lights, the red, the yellow, and the green. An easy way to do that is to draw your sprite yourself. So come here where this icon that allows you to add the sprite, but don't click on it. Just hover with your mouse and then move up to paint. Take note, I did not click on this sprite icon. I just hovered and then this came up and then I clicked on paint. That brings me to this paint window. So what do I need? I need my red. So I'll just draw a circle, not too big and then not too small, something that looks nice. And then I'll change the color to what again? Remind me? Of course, red. So to do that, click on your fill tool, choose the color you want from here. Take note again, I'll come to this fill tool, choose the color I want, which is what I did, and then click on the circle. All right, so now you go back to code and then you are back to this window, right? Now, next thing to do is to move your circle into the traffic light stand. Now, if you make an observation, you see that our traffic light, this red, is quite big. And if I have three of this in this traffic light stand, it'll be out of the stand, right? It's quite big, okay? So what do? Reduce the size. Very simple. So come here to where you have size. You can see it's 100 by default. So I can reduce it to what? Maybe 70. Let's see. That looks nice, right? Now position it correctly. Right. Now let's move on from there. Now, if I have three of these, they can fit perfectly into the traffic light stand and not be too big. Now, next thing I need is the other two colors, yellow and green. So how do I do that? I don't have to create all of them all over again. If I've done it once, I can just do a duplicate, right? So I come here where you have sprite one. First thing I do, change this name of the sprite. So instead of sprite one, I'm going to change it to red light. So I'll know this is my red light. Then I'll come here, I right click on this and then I duplicate. Take note, you right click and duplicate. Now I'm going to have this as my yellow light. So I'll change the name to yellow light. Now I'll do it one more time to get my green light. So I'll change the name to green light. All right, perfect. Well, of course, this is still red and this is still red. And I named them yellow light and green light. They look nothing like yellow and green. So let's fix that. Now click on the yellow light and then come to costumes. What we want to do now is to change the color. Remember how we added the red to it? We clicked on fill tool, then we chose the color. Now I want to choose yellow, right? So you can choose any shade of yellow that catches your fancy, but make sure it is yellow because it is traffic light, right? So I'm cool with this. I'm just going to click on this and it changes to yellow. Now we'll do the same thing to green light. So click on green light, come to costumes, make sure you're on fill, then choose the color from here. A nice shade of green will do. So I've chosen this. I'm leaving my color at 34 and I click on the circle and then I have my green. Good. Now click on code. Then let's arrange them in the correct order. Which comes first, yellow or green? After the red. I think it's yellow. Of course it's yellow. Right. So I have my yellow and then I have my green. Woo! Our work is looking kind of cool, don't you think? All right, let's continue. So now I have my red lights, the yellow lights, and the green lights on my traffic light stand. Cool, right? Now the next thing, if you remember the finished work, which looks like this, I have a bus here and then had Avery walking on the walkway. So let's do that. So I come to add a sprite, then I type bus, which is a very quick way to choose a sprite, and I move the bus to the express, to the road. But the bus kind of looks big, don't you think? Yeah, it's occupying the entire space. So I'm going to reduce it. Come to size. So instead of 100, I'm going to use 60. Oh, that looks cool. Much better. It doesn't take up the whole space on the stage. Next thing is to add the passerby. Now, take note of something. For this passerby, we need to choose a sprite that has other costumes for walking, okay? That has walking costumes, basically. we need to choose a sprite that has walking costumes. And the perfect sprite for that is Avery walking. So click on Avery walking to bring her to your project. So move her to the walkway. But if you notice, she looks like some giant walking on the street. Right, so we're going to have to reduce the size. So this is size. I'm going to reduce her to 60. And yeah, this looks much better. So bring her to the walkway. Nice, right? This is looking really nice. So we can continue from here now. Now tell me, what's the next thing you think we need to do? Think about it. I think it's time for us to get into the coding proper. So we've set up our stage. Our project is looking really nice. But right now it does nothing. Even if I click on the green flag, nothing is happening. Let's fix that. Now it's time for us to get into the coding. Are you ready? Without further ado, let's get into the coding proper. All right, now if you remember the finished work, when we click on the green flag, the red light stays on, but we don't see the yellow and the green light. So we start with that. So we start with the yellow light. So we go to events and you say when the green flag is clicked, let me zoom in a little so you see this properly. When the green flag is what should happen, we shouldn't see it, so it should hide. So if I click on the green flag, see that I no longer see the yellow sprite. So I do the same thing to the green sprite. So to make that easy for me, because I already have this code added here, I'll just drag this to the green sprite. Now take note, once I put it on the green sprite, did you observe what happened to the green sprite? I'll do that one more time. Take note now. You see, it shook a little. That means it has been added. So when I go to the green sprite, I see the exact same code. So click on the green flag. Now let's see what happens. See, I only have the red light on and the yellow and green lights are off. Now let's come to the yellow light because after the red light, it's the yellow light that comes on. So now what's the next thing for us to do? We'll leave the yellow light on for about red light rather for about 3 seconds. Then the yellow light comes on. So that's the next thing we want to do now. So go to control and get your wait 1 second and then change the one, click on it and change it to 3. And after 3 seconds, what should happen? It should come back on. So let's click on the green flag and see. Now really observe what happens, okay? Because we are beginning to get into the thick of it. Now let's click on the green flag and see. After 3 seconds, observe the yellow light comes on. Right, that's where we are at right now. Okay, because that's how the traffic light works. The red light is on first, and after some seconds, the yellow light comes on, and then the green light later comes on. I could use any number of seconds I want. I could do 5, I could do 10. But just to keep it short and moving really smoothly, I'm going to leave it at 3 seconds. All right. Now let's move on from there and continue. So what's the next thing for us to do? Now we want the green light to come on. That's the next thing we need to do. But let me show you a very smooth way to do it. I could easily go to the green light and say after so and so number of seconds it should come on, but that's not smooth. I want to be in control of it. What happens if I change the number of seconds of this? So I want to have a very smooth way for it to come on. Now I'm going to use what is known as broadcast. So go to events and then you see broadcast message 1. So drag it and drop it. Right, drag it and drop it here. Now you see, of course, by default, you have message 1, but I can change the message if I want. Click on message 1 and then click on new message. So what's the message we want it to broadcast? We want it to broadcast turn on green light. And then click OK. Right, so we've been able to successfully create a broadcast. Now you might be wondering, what is a broadcast? I'm going to explain it in very simple terms. So a broadcast is like a message or like a prompt that one sprite can send to another sprite to either begin or end an action or end a process, okay, or to end a flow. So it's kind of like when you signal a friend from a distance, or if you touch a friend and your touch is supposed to make them start doing something or stop doing something or to take note of something, right? So that's simply how a broadcast works, okay? But we want this yellow sprite, the yellow light sprite, to do the broadcast after a certain number of seconds. And I'll tell you why. But let's first of all go to the green sprite. Now, don't forget, the yellow light sprite did a broadcast called what? Turn on green light. And I use turn on green light so that we'll know what action is supposed to perform next, okay? So yellow sprite has done a broadcast, that is, it has sent a prompt. The green light now is going to receive it. So we're still under events in your block category. And then now we drag when I receive. Okay, so yellow light is sending a broadcast, yellow light is receiving the broadcast. Now, so what should the green light rather, what should the green light do when it receives the turn on green light broadcast? Can you think of it? Can you guess? Don't forget that before this time, the green light was hidden, that is, it was off. So what should it do next? Think about it. You're supposed to do what? Come on, exactly, right? So we go to looks, scroll down, and then do show, drag show, right? So now if I click on the green flag, watch what happens. Red after 3 seconds, yellow and green come on at the same time. But there's something we still need to fine tune. If you take note, you see the yellow and the green lights come on at the same time. But that's not what we want. We want the yellow to stay on for maybe like 2 seconds or three before the green light comes on. So we come to control, come back to yellow light sprite. Oops, that's an error, sorry. So we come back to the yellow light sprites and then we come back to the yellow light sprite and then we do control. Then we drag our wait 1 second again. Let me put this in the proper position. We drag our wait 1 second. Oh, that's not the position. So we come to control and we drag wait 1 second and put it right after show, okay? So put it in between show and broadcast turn on green light. So how long do we want the yellow light to remain on for before it sends a broadcast? Let's say 2 seconds, right? So we want the yellow light to be on for 2 seconds before sending a broadcast which the green light receives and then comes on. Let's see what difference that makes. Let's click on the green flag. Red, 3 seconds after, yellow, 2 seconds after, green. Woo! Our work is looking cool, don't you think? All right. Now, if you remember the finished work, right? Or the way a traffic light works. Once the green light comes on, what happens? All the cars begin to move, all the people begin to go about their business. So that's the next thing we want to do. So now don't forget, when I receive turn on green light, show is for the green light sprite. So once it shows, it means it has come on. So at this point, we want the green light to also do a broadcast which the bus will receive and then move. Does it make sense? Yes. So come back to events. So you drag where you have what? Broadcast new message. Let me do that again so you catch it. So you have broadcast turn on green lights. Why do we have that? Because we had created such broadcast before, but that's not what we need. We need a new broadcast. So click on turn on green light and you see new message. So now I can title it anything I want, but I like to use a descriptive message name, okay? So what do I want to happen at this point? I want the bus to move, right? So I'm going to call it bus move. I'm going to title that. You can call it anything, just take note of the name, okay? Now I'm going to now drag bus move, broadcast bus move, and put it after show. It's the same thing we did with the yellow light, okay? And remember what I said a broadcast is. It's just one sprite sending a message to another sprite. So either begin to do something or end something or just to change state or to do whatever we want it to do. So now, which sprite is doing this bus move broadcast? Green sprite. Now, come to your yellow, the bus sprite, rather, the city bus. Now we go to events and then we say, when I receive, let me zoom in. When I receive, okay? When I receive this broadcast called bus move, what should happen? We want it to move from this position where it is to the other position, which is the end, right? And how do we do that? We go to motion. Anytime you want to do a project or anytime you want to make a sprite move, of course, that's motion. So we have so many options here. So you can see glide 1 second to X, whatever position you have. Here I have minus 168 and Y I have minus 101, which is the position of my sprite right here. As you can see here, I have X minus. So if you look right here, this is the position of my sprite x minus 168 and y minus 101. So now the way Scratch works, I'm sure you know that already. It works with the coordinates depending on the position of your sprite. Now I want you to take note of what happens in this x area and the y area when I move this bus. Okay, take note of that. What do you observe here? The numbers changed, right? I'm going to move it again and you see something else. The numbers change. So what it is telling you is these X and Y values are showing you the exact position of your sprite on your Scratch backdrop. If I move it up here, it changes again, right? Good. So I'm going to position it back here. Now, two things we need to do to this bus. One, we need to make it move. But before we make it move, we need to make sure that whenever our project starts, whenever we click on the green flag, we need to make sure that this bus is at this exact position and not here or at the end or anywhere else, okay? So how do we do that? I'm going to move this down a little. We'll come back to that. So go to events and we say when green flag clicked. So of course, you know what when green flag click means. What should happen the moment we click on this green flag? So what I want is when I click on the green flag to start the animation, my bus should be located exactly where it is right now. Okay, so I'll go to motion and then I get go to XY. So I'll drag that and drop. So go to means regardless of wherever it is, whenever I click on the green flag, it will go to this exact position where it is. So I'm going to move it away and then click on the green flag. Then you see what happens, right? I'm going to move it away again. Click on the green flag. It comes back to that exact position. If I change the numbers here, for example, I change this to 200. I'm going to click on the green flag and I want you to take note of what happens. I click on it. Do you observe what happens? The bus moved to the other side. Like I said before, the numbers you have here for X and Y, which is the same thing you have here, it just reflects the current position of your sprite. Okay, so we want it to be here. So I'm going to undo that, okay? I'm going to undo that. So I want it to be X minus 171 and Y minus 104. Now let's come back to when I receive. We needed to do this so that we can get the starting position of the bus. Then now we need to get where we want the bus to move to. So I want the bus to just glide like this all the way somewhere here, okay? Now I'm going to go back to motion and then I'm going to get my glide 1 second. You don't have to bother about changing the values. Why? You've moved the bus already to where you want it to get to, okay? So wherever, once you move this bus to the end here, you can just go get your glide 1 second to XY. So whatever values you have there is the, like I explained earlier, current position of your sprite. So now let's give this a try. Let's give it a go and see how it works, okay? Watch. Red. After 3 seconds, yellow. After 2 seconds, see that, right? So what's happening is this. Let me explain it again. Let me come to the green light sprite. So once the green comes on, which is this show, it does a broadcast, which is called bus move. Like I said, you can call this anything you want. But you have to make sure that whatever you name your broadcast here is what you use here when you receive, because this is what makes the bus move. Once it shows, it does a broadcast. Then I come to the bus, I say when I receive, okay, then it should do what? It should glide for 1 second. I can change this to 3 seconds. And you observe the difference. Observe the movement of the bus and tell me the difference. So when does the bus move? When the green light comes on, right? What did you observe about the movement of the bus? Now that I've changed it to 3 seconds, it's slower because now it's taking 3 seconds to glide to this position right here in the X and Y. If I click on the green flag, take note of what happens to the bus again, like I explained before, goes back to the beginning, right? Perfect. So with that, we've basically done the most of the work. The only thing we need to do now is to make our passerby to work, okay? That's the final thing that we need. Let's make our passerby to work. And that is actually very simple. So just like we did with the city bus, we also need to get the exact position of the passerby, which in this case is Avery walking. You can actually rename her to anything you want if you like. Just come here to sprites, highlight all of this, erase it, and you can change the name. You can change her name to any name you want. And if you wish, you can even change her costume. I come to every working, click on costume. You could change her hair to maybe to green hair. That looks funny, doesn't it? I've made her a green haired girl. But I don't want to do that. So you can do that if you want to when you're playing around with the project. All right, so first thing, like we did with the city bus, is to get the exact starting position of our sprite. So go to AV walking, same thing, events. I'm going to zoom in here. When the green flag is clicked, what should happen? It should go to the exact position it is right here. We want where it is now to be the starting position, okay? We want where she is right now to be her starting position. So same thing, go to X, Y. You don't have to change the value because the current position of the sprite is reflected here also. If you look at this, you see minus 201 y 20, same thing here, right? And the same thing here. So even if I move her to here, take note, click and drag to move, and I click on the green flag, it moves her back to the beginning. I'm going to do that one more time. If I move her here and I click on the green flag, back to the beginning. Because of this, when green flag click, go to X minus 201 and Y 20. Now let's make her move. Let's make her walk. But take note again, she's only supposed to walk when the green light comes on. Right. And when does the green light come on? When it shows show, when we have show in. And when does the green light come on? Here in the green lights code where you have show and then it does a broadcast. So just as we made the city bus to receive bus move and then it moved, that's the same thing we'll do with every walking. So I go to events and then I do when I receive bus move, right? Because she's supposed to start walking at the same time as the movement of the bus. So we can use the same broadcast, okay? We don't have to create a new one. So what should happen when she receives it? Is she supposed to just stand and remain where she is? Of course not. She's supposed to get on with whatever she was doing before. Okay, so let's do that now. So I come to motion again and then I drag move 10 steps. Now, watch what happens if I use just move 10 steps. I want you to take note of that. Watch what happens to Avery. Just watch closely. Yellow, then now green. What did you observe about Avery? You observe she moved, but it's almost like she's floating in the air. But humans don't walk that way, do they? No. So let's make her actually walk. All right, actually pretty easy. So let's go to looks and get next costume and drop it here. Now, next costume is very simple. Let me explain why that's very simple. I'm on every walking. Now go to costumes. How many costumes do you see here? I see one, two, three, four. Do you also see that? Right. Yes, I see four costumes for Avery. I'll go back to code. So if I say next costume, it means it should change to the next costume of Avery. Because right now we are on, look at it, the costume one. You can go to costume two, costume three, costume four, and you can see that they give you the different walking motions that we have. Go back to code. So if I say when I receive boss move, it should move 10 steps and then go to next costume. But it won't work exactly that way. We also need to use a repeat because one had to repeat that steps over and over. So now let's test this out now. So I did repeat 10. What does repeat 10 do? It makes you repeat any code that you nest into it. To nest means to place it inside. I can remove this two. I can put it back. Okay. So let's run this now and see. So just pay attention. Red, yellow, green, and the boss moves. And then what happens to Avery? She walks. But she walks so fast, right? That's too fast. We don't want that. So still go back to control. Let's delay her a little. Let's make her wait. Where is she rushing off to? I don't know. So we add wait 1 second here. And now let's try it. Yellow comes on, green comes on, and then she walks. But she's walking so slow. Like, come on. Is she ever going to get to where she's going to? So let's make her walk a little faster. How do we do that? So reduce the time she is waiting for. So we had 1 second then there. Now I've changed it to 0.5. If you try this out now, she's going to walk just as a normal person would, right? Now, one final thing before we run the code again. If you remember the finished work, when the bus moved, it made a car moving sound. Of course, that makes sense. So to add sound, very simple. So let's do that, which is where we're going to end it for today. So go to sound and then you see play sound until done, regardless of whatever sound you have here. And then you also have start sound until done. Now, because we want the bus to move while making the sound. So we use start sound and not play sound until done. So drag it and drop here. Now you can see I already have carve room here. That's because I've selected it before now. But if you don't have carve room, you probably have pop. So how do you do that? So go to sound at the top here, click on sound, then come to your sound library, click on choose a sound down here, bottom left, click on it, and then let's look for a car sound. So just type car. So car, you see, that sounds like what we need, don't you think? So I'm going to click on it. So I've had it, I have it added here. So when I come back to code and you click on this, you see your car vroom, right? Good. Now let's run this project from the beginning and see how it works. It should look cool now. Yellow. Much better, right? Even Avery is working at a good pace. Now, you can make Avery to keep walking to the end. How do you do that? You can increase the number of repeats to 30, to 40, to 20, to any number you want, okay? Once you run your project, you see where she gets to. This is repeat 10. She stops here. If I do repeat 30, she probably walk all the way here. Okay. So what makes her walk again, just to remind you, is the next costume. Next costume makes her change from one costume to the next, while move 10 steps makes her to move forward. So as a costume is changing, she's moving. As a costume is changing, she's moving, which gives us a walking animation for every walking sprite. I'm running it for the last time, so watch. Take note of Avery now. She'll walk for a longer distance. Right. That looks cool, don't you think? Now, I want you to give this a try. Now, after you're done trying it, you can send it to me, you can share it with me, and let me see what you have been able to create. Now, you can play around with this project, but this is just the fundamental part of it. Now, do not forget to save your project when you're done. Click File and click Save to your computer. Save it whatever file name that you please. With that, you have just created a traffic light simulator project. That was fun, wasn't it? Any part of it that you miss, you can just rewind and watch it all over again until you get it. I want you to master this such that you can do it without checking anywhere. Can you do that for me? Yes. Now let me know what you are able to create with this. I'll see you in the next video. My name again is Michael Tobechukwu. Ciao.